Ever since I've loved cars, I've loved unusual ones. It's not that I can't appreciate a Mustang or Camaro, it's just that there are so many other vehicles that capture my attention. At one point, America had nearly a dozen major automakers. Now we're down to 3, 2 if you don't count FCA. Still, I'm fascinated by the history of all the independent companies that weren't part of the big 3. But one by one, we lost them, each disappearing, leaving only memories stamped in steel. I'm too young to have actually lived through that. I never thought I'd see a successful independent automaker in my lifetime. Until now. This is a 2018 Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive long-range version. It is built by Tesla Incorporated, an American company founded in 2003. This is their 4th new vehicle, and like all the others, it's 100% battery-powered. I rented this particular Model 3 through Toro for a weekend road trip, and there's a link to the owner's page in the video's description. Since the Model 3 came out, Tesla stopped labeling cars by their battery capacity in kilowatt hours, so this is simply the long-range battery, which provides an impressive EPA-estimated 310 miles per charge. However, the owners set the charging limit to 90% to preserve the battery's lifespan. In this version, the single motor has 283 horsepower and an advertised 0 to 60 time of 5 seconds. Yes, it's not ludicrously fast, but it still outpaces the Nissan Leaf, Volkswagen e-Golf, Chevrolet Bolt, and Kia Niro EV. It also feels more refined than those competitors, without the rock-hard eco tires that so many electric cars use that spin helplessly when you floor the pedal, which, if I'm honest, I kind of miss. But here's the big secret Tesla doesn't want you to know. The Model S, X, and Roadster all used alternating current induction motors, based on Nikola Tesla's 1887 design. Hence, the company name, Tesla Motors. However, the Model 3 uses a permanent magnet switched reluctance motor, which it appears future Tesla vehicles will also use due to efficiency advantages. Meaning, one day, Tesla Inc. may no longer use the motors created by the inventor the company is named after. Ironic. Anyways, like most battery-powered cars, the Model 3 has a low center of gravity and a surprisingly hefty feel. It handled well, but being a rental, I didn't push it very hard. One thing I didn't like was the extremely heavy steering. Both in sport and standard modes, it felt artificially stiff, making comfort mode the only acceptable choice to me.
And I know different people prefer different things, and maybe I'm just spoiled from my AMC Ambassador that gives me fingertip control with its extremely overboosted power steering. But I tend to prefer a lighter steering feel, because most of the time heavy steering isn't because you have great handling, it's because the steering is artificially heavy.
I'm probably in the minority, as most people will think it falls in line with other sports sedans. And while the Model 3 is a sedan, the seating position and the view from inside gave me some vague crossover impressions. Part of that I attribute to the designer's efforts to maximize room and aerodynamics, which created a somewhat unusual layout. Despite the Model 3's unconventional proportions, it doesn't look ugly. Yes, the grille-less face can take some getting used to, but in general, the car has a sleek, albeit restrained, design. Perhaps a bolder color would help it stand out more on this cloudy day. Also, I filmed it at an abandoned gas station because symbolism. Tesla clearly puts a lot of effort into having a congruent design language across its vehicle lineup, which is both commendable but limiting. Styling trends have changed a lot since the Model S debuted in 2012, and although the Model 3 doesn't look dated yet, it does look familiar. The super sleek wheel covers certainly stand out, but they also stick out a few millimeters, making them extremely prone to curb rash. Inside, the sleek, minimalist theme continues with no gauge cluster, no air vents, and very few visible controls. Even the door handles are unconventional, both outside and in, which confused some of my passengers. The space is plenty welcoming, but the increasing number of non-luxury cars with much fancier interiors, say a Mazda 6 Signature or a Ford Fusion Titanium, makes the Model 3 almost a letdown, especially given its high price tag. Clearly, the money went toward other features, like the giant center screen. Coming into this test drive, I was determined to remain skeptical about that screen. But after experiencing it, I'll admit, Tesla actually made it work. The computer is responsive, the graphics are easy to read, and the virtual buttons are just the right size for my clumsy fingers. I've driven a lot of vehicles with a lot of different interfaces, ranging from decent to dreadful. And while I still prefer physical buttons and knobs, this is the closest I've come to a legitimate replacement for them. But the true genius of the system is how it works in conjunction with the steering wheel controls. The Mazda and the Fusion may use nicer materials, but their steering wheels look like a cluttered mess compared to the Model 3. There's 2 scroll wheels that rotate up and down, click left and right, and click in. And what the 2 wheels control is context sensitive to whatever's on the screen. That's it, a simple, intuitive system. No redundant buttons, bizarre trackpads, frustrating capacitive sliders, or idiotic gesture controls. Yes, the Model 3 does have voice commands, but I didn't even bother with them. And I could go into excruciating detail on all the different things this infotainment system offers, but instead I'm making fart jokes with a $46,000 car.
Now, this is not a full review, but I don't think anybody can talk about Tesla without talking about autopilot, so now I've activated it, and I've used lane keeping assist systems before and radar adaptive cruise. It took me a while to get used to it, and that's not just because I'm a crotchety old man that doesn't like technology, which I kind of am a little bit, but that's not the reason why I didn't like it. I feel like in my particular case, it kept me closer to the center line than what I was comfortable with, but it takes way more physical force to override it, and you always wind up wiggling back and forth as you try and correct for the car's motion when the system shuts off. You can do all the stuff with using your turn signal to change lanes, and that's really neat. And it is cool to see the little cars show up on screen. See, like right there, it was getting me too close to the center line, and I got uncomfortable and started to come back to the right, and then the system shut off. Now, I'm sure if I had the same commute every day, and it was just the same stretch of highway, and I was bored out of my mind, I think that autopilot would do a good job of reducing driver fatigue.
In general, I like driver assist features, and I appreciate how they make new cars safer. Even though I love old cars, I'm not anti-technology. However, after this Model 3 tried to drive onto a curb at 40 miles per hour because the lane markings suddenly changed, I've concluded that I'm not quite ready for self-driving cars. Maybe in a few years. What I am ready for, though, is Tesla's Supercharging network. The number one objection everyone has to electric cars is,
well, yeah, but what if you run out of battery? Where are you going to charge that?
With a round trip of over 325 miles, I made multiple stops at Tesla's fast charging stations. Tesla deliberately places superchargers along major highways, usually within 100 miles of each other, all of which were located at Sheetz gas stations because this is Pennsylvania, of course. And all you have to do is back in, plug in, and that's it. No swiping a credit card, no waiting in line for a cashier, no standing there holding the nozzle in 0-degree weather. You can sit in the car the whole time and play games on the touchscreen if you want. You can even browse the web, although for some reason it wouldn't play YouTube videos. True, it's slower than filling your gas tank, but it's faster than any other electric car charger. During my trip, I never charged to full capacity, each time adding about 100 miles of range, which usually took around 15 minutes. To protect the battery, the charge rate slows down the closer you get to 100%. When the battery was low, I saw speeds over 400 miles of range per hour. Compare that to a household 110 outlet, which charges at a rate of about 4 miles per hour. It's crazy to think of the amount of electricity coursing through those wires. I noticed the cord does get a little warm. The car is linked to a Tesla account, which bills the owner directly. The people renting this Model 3 offer unlimited supercharging, meaning for a flat fee, I could charge it as much as I wanted, and they'd pay the bill. Not that supercharging is expensive, I probably only used like $12 worth during the whole trip. And compared to other EV charging stations, superchargers are really easy. Non-Tesla cars use different connectors, and because there's two competing standards, some charging stations don't have the right plugs, and then different companies require different memberships and blah blah blah. It's a pain. You can charge a Tesla at a third-party station, but why? It's like buying an iPhone and trying to sync it to a computer running Windows XP. Speaking of that, it's a common trope to compare Tesla to Apple. Both put a strong emphasis on design, both practice vertical integration, both have proprietary connectors, premium pricing, celebrity CEOs, and rabidly loyal fan bases. But Apple very much dominates its industry, while Tesla remains the underdog. Which brings me back to where I started. Not since 1987, when Chrysler bought AMC, has there been a fourth American car company. When I look at Tesla, I see the spirit of those long-gone independent automakers. A spirit of innovation, pride, and rebellion against the industry giants. There's a 1949 Kaiser advertisement that says, "They found the better way," and it shows a picture of a gorgeous Kaiser convertible in front of a row of Liberty ships which Henry J. Kaiser built during the war. And to me, Tesla carries that same old American optimism. Maybe they have found the better way. Just maybe they will succeed where the other independent automakers didn't. And despite the nearly constant controversy that surrounds Tesla, I can't help cheering them on. Now, I'm not going to argue that the Tesla Model 3 is the best car in the world. There are plenty of people who already think that. And there are just as many people who will never think that in a million years. But after waiting a very long time to drive one, it lived up to the hype. It's quiet, fast, convenient, and extremely customizable. The Model 3 is a fantastic car, a triumph of engineering and technology that remains fun to drive, even when you're not driving it. And if electric cars really are the future, I'm proud to say the best ones aren't made in China, Japan, Germany, or Korea. They're made right here in America by an independent automaker. I'd like to thank Eve and CP for letting me rent their Tesla Model 3 for this video. If you're near State College, Pennsylvania, you can rent this car on Turo. See the link in the description for more information. And be sure to check out the other half of this story, where I take my grandpa, who's related to Nikola Tesla, for his first ride in a Tesla.
Unbelievable, Joe.
Thanks for watching.